I've missed that music. Thank you guys for tuning in after a week of hiatus. I've got Vince Nardone back with us. Matt Kerouac, you'll be pleased to know that your Friday morning drive will now be improved tenfold. Thank you for joining us, Vince.
Oh, it's nice to be here. Sorry about last week. Nobody's business why we didn't show up, but we did show up. Sorry.
That way?
That was why, see?
Vince had a near-death experience.
I did have a near-death experience. Speaking of death, everybody should, whoever out of our 4 listeners who's listening right now and driving, please slow down. The roads are horrendous, and I saw a handful of accidents on my way here. And as for Kerouac, who will be driving tomorrow morning,
Eyes on the road.
probably stuck in traffic. Don't worry, calm down. At least it's Friday morning for you.
So we're going to get into the game recaps. Div 1, Div 2, full of a lot of action. I'm going to give you some time to breathe. We're going to get into this. Terror Squad Express, 24-31 final. Express coming out with a win in this game. Tell me your impressions about what happened.
Well, first win of the season for Express probably takes a lot of weight off their shoulders. First game of the season where I would say that SEC puts a stamp on a game and actually it's time to just go.
It's
into
about
overdrive.
time.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Well, I don't know him personally, and I don't know that he doesn't maybe take a step back or go 80% because he does have something more to stay healthy for. Like if you and I roll an ankle tomorrow morning, we can go to work and go on with our lives. If he tears an ACL playing flag football,
That's it.
He makes money off playing football. I mean, it's probably in the back of his mind when he shows up to play flag. Joe Duclair, 2 picks. This was basically a tale of turnovers, and Express ended up on top.
Time to dispense some truth. Is the divide between the teams in Div 1, between the top tier teams and the bottom tier teams, is it getting bigger or is it getting smaller?
It's becoming obvious. It's becoming very obvious. There's a lot of teams sitting at 1 win, which is, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Having a division with so little teams and having the crossover rule, you might be able to make the playoffs this season with 3 wins. 2 might be enough this year. If one team remains at 1 and finishes at 1-9, 2 wins brings you to the playoffs.
You've phrased this perfectly because you've said the word 1 win, you've said crossover rule, you've said playoffs. At 1-4, and with the crossover rule in effect, can Terror Squad still make playoffs after this loss?
I got Terror Squad as the one looking out at the end of this year. at the end of the season, I'd say no.
So DK have a win as well. They're at 2-3. There's the 3-way tie right now between Express, Demons, and Terror Squad, who are all at 1-4. Terror Squad probably hoping to sneak into Conference A's playoffs.
The problem is that Express and
Demons.
Yeah, that's right. Express and Demons have a softer schedule than Terror has left. The games they have left on schedule. That's why I have Terror Squad outside looking in.
And currently, right now, if it comes to a 3-way tie, the Demons, as of right now, have 1 extra divisional win over the other 2, which may come down to it if there's a 3-way tiebreak.
Yeah, exactly. That's very important to keep in mind, the divisional.
Next up on the docket, we had Montreal's finest, Flag-Mollissac, 37-30 final. Simply put, how do you stop the finest?
How do you stop the finest? You don't. You keep them off the field. You keep Kevin off the field as much as you possibly can. Is that easier to say than do? Absolutely. You just have to find a way to slow down the pace of the game. And by that I mean, even when your defense is on the field, give up everything short. I mean, you can't even especially early in the game, give yourself as much of a chance to stay in the game for as long as possible and then gamble, take shots as a defense later on when they're not expecting it. That's the only way to stay in the game against Finest.
Kevin Wyeth, 2 interceptions in this game. 1 was over a controversial contact on the passer call that may or may not have happened. From where I was scorekeeping, you heard whether that was contact with the ball or contact with Kevin's arm. I think goes without saying because normally hitting a ball like that doesn't make that much noise. Guillaume Robert was brought in to play for Flag-Mollissac, Carabin receiver, did very well, 2 TDs, 7 receptions for 95 yards. Alex Neto-Putes, interception list going 20 for 30. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Flag-Mollissac is impressive. They're doing well, they're keeping up with good teams, and they've shown the ability to play defense. Keeping Finest at 37 points is very good. It's awesome. It's above average. It's better than most teams can say that they've done against Finest this year. That's something you can build off of. Your defense is something you can build off of. Now it's up to your offense to be able to put up more points going forward. 30 points against Finest and D-Boys and teams who just put up points in abundance is just not gonna be good enough. So just find more plays or more ways to put up points, basically.
With the Rainmakers so close to Flag Molissac right now, can they retain first place? Like, where do you see these two teams week 10? Obviously, more weight goes on Flag Molissac because there's more uncertainty for them, whereas Montreal's Finest right now, currently undefeated. Will they stay that way?
Yeah, well, they're both sitting at 3-2 as of right now. Rainmakers hold the... they've played each other already. Rainmakers beat Flag Moissac.
Mm-hmm.
They play again week 9 this season, and I have them both pegged with one loss on their schedule. So I have them... Let's say they both lose a game and they're at 3-3. At the end of the year, somebody's going to end up 7-4, and somebody's going to end up... somebody's going to end up 7-3, and somebody's going to end up 6-4 based on that week 9 matchup between each other. So it's going to be up to that. If the way I look at it, it's going to be up to week 9 between the two teams.
Montreal's Finest, do you see them winning out?
Possibly. I said at the beginning of the year that they would finish 9-1. Still the case. I'm gonna go by my guns here on this one. 9-1 is already really good. 10-0.
They're playing
possibly.
Rainmakers, Terror Squad, D-Boys, DK, or Demons. Yeah. I'm personally of the opinion, if there is a team, this is a big if. It's underlined in italics. But if there's a team that's going to do it, it's going to be D-Boys on the schedule.
Yeah, I think so too. That's a good point. They show the ability to go punch for punch, just like Flag Moissac did the past week. I feel like somebody's got to be able to find a way to beat Finest in the regular season. Can the same be said about the playoffs? I don't think so.
Wasn't Masiocha hurt the last time they played?
Yeah, I mean you can say that Masiocha was hurt last time they played.
That was a tight game, right?
But he doesn't.
It was a tight game. Yes.
He hurt his groin, and he's a quarterback. I mean, I don't know if that forces you to throw interception. I don't think so. Whoa!
I think I'm catching what you got. A little case of the truth. I actually did choke. For those of you who can't see us live right now,
he's still choking. Don't worry about it, guys. Give him a second. Eagle.
Gladiator ONS, 45-47 final. ONS came out of this one victorious. Can either of these teams formulate a defense?
Oh, no. Absolutely not. Defense on both sides is awful. I think I compared ONS's defense to a passage drain.
Ryan Aridi's exam has finished, and he's tweeting in. By the way, we'll come back to it afterwards, but continuing on with Gladiator and ONS.
Yeah, well, Gladiator has one of the most predictable defenses I've seen in a long time. I forget who I wanted to compare them to, but you basically know what they're in every time you line up against them. They are predictable to the point where it's becoming below average. It's way below average defensive game for Division 2. It's awful. And ONS is just, they might have too much size and not enough speed on their defense. There's something that needs to be fixed. I mean, Chris Pansino can't cover the whole field with Cook. It's impossible.
Are the Glads at risk to get into a slump? Looking at their schedule coming up, they have a lot. They run a very chemistry-based offense, but up against #NoRegard, up against Chernobyl Circus, the Commission, and BC McGonagalls. These are a lot of teams that rely more on their athleticism than on their chemistry to win games. And will Gladiator be in trouble?
And for that reason alone, I don't think Gladiator would ever be able to go into a slump because of the experience and the people you have on this team. I don't think anybody would be able to allow their team to go into a slump, especially with the addition of Nadeau Pius. I mean, the IQ that comes along with a guy like that, him alone would be able to help you defensively as a quarterback, knowing what the defense does, what works. He can bring his knowledge over to their defense and help them out. Just, this and that may work. Let's try this. Whatever. Moving forward.
A game that you were very intimately acquainted with, Legends versus #NoRegard, 39-25 final for the Legends. I think this might even be the first time we're talking about your team. Tell us a little bit about this game.
Well, this was a good game. I don't know if that the score really reflects the game. We went up early in the game. We were up 2 scores. We put up a bunch of points at the half. I think we had 26 points, 27 points at the half, and then 12 in the second. Kind of slowed down. I think we made them look better than they are. The flip-flop at quarterback with James Floriani and Alex Hallowack, I mean, it's a little late to just switch your quarterback or committee or just the island has voted you off the island, apparently, says no regard to Alex Hallowack, but whatever. your next question, is this season a write-off for them?
Yeah, is the season a write-off for them?
Yes, absolutely. They're going nowhere quick.
We'll touch on it a little bit more later, but right now we do have 2 tweet-in questions. We'll handle them both individually. First, we'll go with Brent Callender's tweet because Eagle has not actually switched back to Ryan Aridi's original tweet. We haven't forgotten about you. But just first, how do you guys see the ONS offense versus the Cold Fusion defense? I'll handle this one because the next one says Vince specifically. How do you see the ONS offense versus the Cold Fusion defense? I like Cold Fusion on this one because what happens is that they need to stop Kevin once. Because they have the speed and the size over ONS defensively, it's no secret that ONS's strength is their offense. Yeah. So on the Cold Fusion defense, if they come up with one stop on Kevin, they have the game, in my opinion.
Well, we were talking about Jordan McLaren, Jason Prince, a bunch of names were slipping my mind.
Jordan
right Alexis Jardin. I mean, are you kidding me? Although you're up against Kevin Wyeth and he makes any defense look bad, but if you're comparing defense to defense, I mean, it's night and day for me. Cold Fusion all day.
And B, neither here nor there, but Vince, if you QB the FPF media team, can he be on the squad?
Absolutely. Of course.
And then going back to Ryan Aridi, a Div 1 question, since we don't normally get Div 1 questions because no one listens. Besides Mike Kirawak, thank you again. Because we found out that we have a listener in D1.
Kev listens.
Excellent.
And Carmen cares what we say about him.
Yes. Who has better chances to make the playoffs, Demons or Express?
Demons or Express? I think I'll answer this question next week after the DK versus Demons matchup.
I think regardless of the DK versus Demons matchup, I think the Demons have a little bit more drive right now than the Express do. Express seem to be going through the motions. They're not converting on those key 3rd and 4th downs, whereas Demons are making the mistakes, but at the same time, they tend to be learning from them. The divide between their games seem to be fewer and fewer. They're in much more games than they have. They still have the finest on the roster, though, to play, but
schedule.
I prefer the Demons in this case if you ask me to vote.
And they have head-to-head right now.
And they have head-to-head right now. Thank you, Eagle.
10? Yeah, week 10.
Yeah. So those are my 2 votes.
So you go Demons?
Yeah.
All right, good questions.
So my favorite topic, because it takes the work off of me and puts it onto you, I just have to answer questions unprompted, of course. We're going to go into rapid fire. Vince has prepared a bunch of questions that I do not know about in advance, so you're going to get probably a lot of stumbling, but wholeheartedly honest answers from me.
Hopefully not too much stumbling. I didn't make anything too rough here. So you ready to go?
I am.
The public knows what's going on right now for our 4 guests. No.
Donald Bomb Squad has chimed in.
So tell me, the one word that pops in your mind when I say the following words, okay? I'm going to say one word. Tell me what pops into your mind in one word.
I need to think before it, because usually I'll come out with a whole sentence.
Okay. So let's go with an example. If I say, I say Expos.
Baseball.
All right. That works. All right, let's get going. Theo Ojea.
Cocky.
Breakfast.
Often forgotten.
Two
words. Forgotten. Okay, we'll go with forgotten.
TMT.
Division 3.
All right.
D3.
D3, that works. Sleep.
Not enough.
2 words.
I need to see. This is the biggest problem.
Awful.
It needs to be one sentence. I don't do well.
Okay. Tony Tabbitt.
Absent. For those of you who don't know, he was missing from his Div 2 game, and in my opinion, it cost him.
Of course it did. Read my article. Rajdi.
Professor.
Remember the Titans.
Blitz.
Carmen Police.
Almost co-host.
2 words.
Awful. Ryan Kastner.
Fame. Since I can't say Hall of Fame, I'm just going to say Fame and hope everyone picks up on it.
All right. Pascal Murray.
Average.
Matt Kirawak.
Rusher.
You're awful.
I know I'm awful, but I can't say more than one word.
This is the truth, and you're going with softness. Okay.
I just called Pascal Murray average right now. I think that he's a very good QB, but he's not playing up to the potential.
He is good.
This
Average
is a
was
QB
pretty mean.
that
was mean.
Who made the finals 3 times in 4 seasons,
good. He's
and
a
now
really good
doesn't even
quarterback.
have a winning record.
Oh, he's a good quarterback.
He's a great quarterback.
He also didn't show up to half the games. I mean, I think he missed at least one, or maybe 2 games in the season, and his roster never shows up, so it's beyond. Matt Kirawak.
Besides Rusher, right?
Did we already do this?
Yes.
All right, forget it. I'm
Because you
done.
called me terrible.
Yeah, well,
I think
he's got me all
I think I
confused.
need more than one word to do this.
Okay, if you had to choose between two, choose one between the two things I'm
Sure.
about to tell you. Jeez, that's complicated.
Tomorrow.
Le Monsieur Shaw or TMT to make the playoffs.
Mr. Shaw.
All right, Nutella or peanut butter.
Both.
No,
In a sandwich.
no. Does he not understand the rules?
Okay,
He's right,
I'm gonna go. I am right, but then I'll go with Nutella.
Eagle. Okay, fine. Nutella, good. See,
It's better standalone.
Okay, Alex Hallowack or James Floriani.
Holloway.
Frank LeBeau or Corey Pecker. That's a good one.
Oh, that's a hard one.
You like that?
I like them both for different reasons, but I'm gonna go with Frank LeBeau because I think he can do more with different players.
All right, Brian Fuchs or Carl Lavallee.
Brian Fuchs, I think, is a very, very underrated player who doesn't get a lot of press.
It's because he's on my team, because he should get a lot more press. A hook and go or a post corner?
Hook and go. It gives the DB far less time to adjust if it's done properly.
Post sit.
You think so? Post sit? That's stupid. Get out of Div 6. Christmas or Super Bowl?
Christmas.
All right, you made that seem so like... Starbucks or McDonald's coffee?
Second cup.
Oh, somebody doesn't get it. Fine, we're going to go straight to questions. Who would you bet your mortgage on right now to win Division 2?
Cold Fusion. They're proven right now. There's nothing that I can have rebutted from you. They have the best defense. They have an unstoppable offense. Best roster in Div 2, hands down.
Okay, that's fair. Seeing that we didn't really talk about the whole Hall of Fame thing, and I know we're going to go touch on it later, debate that went on Facebook. After this huge debate on Facebook, do you think that attaching the division the player plays in to his name, so let's say Eagle makes Hall of Fame as a player in Division 5,
I've played 4, 5, and 6. Yeah.
what did you play the most in?
Well,
The bulk of your statistics and championships and whatever. 5. Okay, so you say Eagle 5, Division 5. He's a Division 5 Hall of Fame. Do you think that resolves the whole issue?
I think it would resolve the whole issue, but the problem with that is we have so many players who are in the Div 1 and Div 2 Hall of Fame that it almost seems like an oversight to put someone in and just say, oh, they did it. I think a lot of the arguments stem from the fact, I'm not going to touch on this too much because everyone has their own opinion, but a lot of people...
Well, you're allowed yours.
This stems from the fact that when we say Hall of Fame of what? Can you be in the Hall of Fame as a builder for building championship teams despite not being super, super successful individually?
Well, we know it's the Hall of Fame of flag football.
Yeah, but how do you contribute? Do you contribute on the field? Do you
As a
contribute
player.
Off the field? Okay. So as a player, then it should be more about Division 1 players, Division 2 players, maybe even Division 3 players who are very standout. Players who do well in Div 4 and 5 and 6 are fantastic. I like what they contribute to the league, but as you move up, it becomes more important. You see that when you're faced up against other athletes, it's more about being in the right division. Like, I think even Division 3 players should be considered. 4 and 5, I like what they bring to the table. They're my favorite divisions to cover, but it's more important to see how skill correlates, because having someone who's put in the wrong division, and then when you see them up against steeper competition in 3 or 2, aren't necessarily as big. And you see at the same time, too, players in Div 1, Div 2 who get overshadowed by better players who move up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's natural, right?
Counter argument, if you
the
look
name
at
of
the
the game.
Incredibles, you played with them. Peterson and Bertoldi, I would say, are strong candidates once they hit the seasons. And they're, as a general, like the whole team itself, wouldn't go higher than Div 3.
But them as individuals, whom
Them
they
as
have.
individuals. Peterson?
It's not a
Peterson plays in Div 3.
It's not a team
Yeah, 3,
award.
basically.
It's not a team award. It's an individual award. You make the Hall of Fame. You don't make the Hall of Fame based on the teams you were part of.
That I
You
understand, but
make, you make the Hall of Fame based on your individual, what you brought to those teams, the weight that you pulled on those teams, whether they were championship teams, whether you're in Div 1 or Div 2, the things that you did that made the team better.
But you're
Is it Hall of Fame or is it not?
You're diminishing their contribution because they chose to take it less competitive than other people, right? Or
They didn't choose to make it less competitive. We wouldn't have been competitive anywhere else.
But the flip side of the coin, you're saying your contribution, not the team's contribution. if I ever make it in the FPF Hall of Fame as a player, you know it's not going to be because of my athletic prowess. It's going to be because of the fact that I've built teams that have won championships. You come in and you have teams that make it so far, and you're the contributing factor. I have no illusions that I will ever make it as a player. But if I continue to make teams that win championship based on the chemistry, based on how well they do together, I would say that merits it. Agree, disagree. Not necessarily from... maybe even if we divided it, if we had FPF Hall of Fame athletes, builders, staff. Like, we already have the staff, we already have the officials.
So then it becomes an award, right?
Yeah.
So give somebody an award, okay. So then it becomes an award. It's not part of the Hall of Fame as per se.
That's a fair rebuttal.
Okay. So that I agree with you, because a Hall of Fame for me is clear. It's black and white. It's either you belong in a Hall of Fame or you don't. If you're the best at Division 6, you do not belong in a Hall of Fame. A flag football. I don't care. Okay, fine. My opinion. I do care what you guys think or what anybody else thinks, but a Hall of Fame is the best of the best. Even if it's a recreational league, even if we pay to play, even if I don't want to be mean to the guys who drive this league forward in Division 3, 4, 5, and 6, the guys who are going to make this league one day better. I don't want to spit in their face. That's not what I'm trying to do, and they're not listening, so it doesn't matter what I'm saying. I just think that a Hall of Fame, to me, is a Hall of Fame. A Hall of Fame. I don't even need to explain those words. It's a Hall of Fame.
So we're going to touch on this a little bit more,
Yeah.
but not.
Moving on.
We have a different subject just after we take a quick break. We'll be back in a minute or two. You're
One
listening
more
to
question?
the truth.
No more questions? Damn it.
Oh, are there more questions?
Yeah, of course you have more questions.
Okay, so we'll take our quick break,
Okay.
and then we'll lead in with some of the residual questions.
Fine. Deal.
Calling the Audible has been brought to you by the English Montreal School Board's DEAL program. Distance education for all learners will allow you to obtain your high school diploma or prerequisites for CEGEP or vocational studies from the comfort of your own home. It's never too late to go back to school. Learn anywhere at your own pace and get your diploma. Call 514-788-5937 for information or visit www.distanted.ca for more details.
So you're back on The Truth. I'm GM Caletharis. You can follow me on Twitter at GMKOLE44. I have Vince Nardone sitting across from me at Vince Nardone, which is easy enough. You're probably listening to us on www.theunclemikeshow.com in Coast to Coast Studios. I jumped the gun a little bit. We still had a couple questions. We'll breeze through them before we continue.
Okay, so I got 3 questions left.
They're questions, right? I don't
They're
have
questions.
to say one word that I'm going to fail
No,
at?
yes.
Okay?
No, you might fail because you failed so far in 2 of the categories, but we'll see. What's wrong with Terror Squad?
What's wrong with Terror Squad? I think right now they're in that divide. They've won Div 2. They were very strong in Div 2. It even came down to the last play against Gladiateur where, if you remember correctly, Pat Jerome picked it off and brought it back to the house on the convert to win the game. So they're caught in that divide where they're too strong and they've won in Div 2, but they're not quite as at the caliber as a unit for Div 1. I think they need to play more to their strengths. You saw they were using the read option and then airing it out deep on the Demons. I think based on who they're playing, they need to play up to their strengths and really forget about playing the prototypical D1 game. We're seeing in Div 2 TMT, a team I'm not necessarily a fan of. However, they get it done. They play their style of football rather than adapting to what's on the plate for the division, and that's why they have wins. And I think Terror Squad need to follow that example.
Yeah, all right, good. Cold Fusion is the only undefeated team in Division 2. They have ONS, BC Les McGonagalls, Norgard, and TMT left on their schedule. Do you think they're going to finish off a perfect season?
I do. If they can get through this week against ONS, I think the odds are strong, and that's why I bet my mortgage on them.
All right. Now that we know that Benny, I don't know the injury that Benny took. You played.
Knee sprain. He's actually also out for his Division 3 game this week, which means I have to find a quarterback. If you are rated 80 and under offensively, send me a message, please.
Okay. All right. Looking for quarterbacks for Division 3. Is he out for any longer than this week?
I don't know, to be honest. Thus far, he just told me he's out for this week. We'll have to make other accommodations. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Okay.
If Nathan...
'Cause
I would say
FFF
Nathan Taylor will probably be playing QB for FFF this week.
FFF has lost both games that Taylor QB'd in so far. So my question is, knowing that a good friend is out with an injury, what's the best course of action for FFF going forward? Do you find a new quarterback for the remainder of whatever injury it is that good friend has to go through, or do you continue going with Nathan?
I think right now you would continue going with Nathan because if Benny is out for a long-term period of time, they don't have anyone who can come in and be playoff eligible. So even if they continue winning games with whoever they put in at the pivot position, they can't use him in the playoffs, and then they would have to go back to Nathan anyways. So I think it would be better to get Nathan those reps, get him comfortable, draw plays around what works for them.
That's it for me.
So one of the things that stemmed from the Hall of Fame debate that I really wanted to touch on and look at is stats pre-2009. A lot of people said the league wasn't the way it is now. However, do you discount them completely? Do you take them with a grain of salt? Do you take them wholeheartedly? There's achievements that happened in those years. Pat Chenard setting the interception record. You had the Young Guns, 14 defensive TDs in 10 games. I don't care if it's in Division 1, Division 2, Division 6. You're not going to have that replicated. I think that even though there was a little bit more disparity between the top tier teams and the bottom tier teams, these are important statistics to note, and it should come into play. What are your thoughts?
I think anything between... I mean, it's easy to discredit my opinion because I wasn't there from the start. I've been playing since 2009.
Top South.
But that being said, I've asked a lot of people who have been around for a while their opinion on what's gone on with the league. And the common thread among everybody who's talked about what this is that the league has gotten a lot better over the years. The Division 1 of then is no longer the Division 1 of now. So yes, you've got your achievements and I give you credit for what you've done. But would you be able to do that again today against the competition of today in division you did it in then? Absolutely not. I don't think you'd be able to do that. The Flag Plus as a whole has evolved tremendously.
However, my flip side of that argument is, are you this good now because you did that then and it built on your skill? You were able to get those reps, you were able to get your reputation out, and it built you better as a player.
Think about the NHL, pre-lockout, post-lockout. The game went from being big and fast and putting your strong guys with your speed guys, right? You had Gretzky playing with basically goons, compared to after post-lockout where you have speed across the board. Would you discredit people and not put them in the Hall of Fame because of that? Because they lived through the era?
Imagine a pre-2005 Chicago Blackhawks team. They would get destroyed. They would get absolutely manhandled in that. Yeah. And I think we need to get you a mic because everything you've said tonight is super relevant.
Way to go, Eagle. I mean, you have a good point. Absolutely, it's true. But again, the league itself has evolved in terms of rules. And I think the league has made it more and more... in the day, it was ruthless. I mean, contact was more allowed or holding was more allowed. And there's these penalties for this and penalties for that. And over the years, we've been able to adapt over, okay, you can't hold over, you can't do this, you can't this play, you can no longer do this. And back then you could. So
back then, QBs didn't even have to supply their own balls. There was from our league sponsor, every team had a ball. Like the game was played with one ball.
Really?
Both sides. Yeah.
Wow.
So you know how some QBs throw with an F2000, some QBs throw with a NFL ball, CFL ball.
I personally like to throw a beach ball because I got these miniature hands going on here, like Eagle. Okay, just to say that I don't discredit but I take it with a grain of salt.
Okay. I was about to call you out on failing the segment because I asked the question and you hadn't answered it thus far, and now you're answering it. So I'm happy but upset.
It is what it is. I find it hard to believe because you look at teams that were successful then, and people say that there are teams that are still the same or have kept the same core of guys. Give me one team with the same core of guys, and that core being the driving force of that team. It doesn't exist. It just does not exist. They're gonna come up with this Wolverine thing. Where's Wolverine now? The core of that team. What are they doing on that team now? Don't tell me you're still relevant.
You know what? I think they've been up and down. They've been strong in Division C and Division B. They have a championship in Division B in the spring. I think it's more a fact that they still want to be competitive in their respective division, and they're finding guys while still keeping that core. Even Montreal's finest, you look at that from before, not to discredit them, but Zan Simmons is QB, having Pat Chenard as QB as well, playing on Express and Finest. The team is not the same that it used to be.
I'm glad you said Zan Simmons because I had this discussion with Liam Mahoney. When we started playing in this league way back, me 2009, him I think it was 2007, Zan Simmons used to be a god. He used to be the guy that's like, holy shit, this guy's amazing.
Besides Rick Nincheri.
Okay. And now Zan Simmons is what Zan Simmons is now. I mean, it's all relevant.
A great player, but someone who has more reputation of buying time with his feet and having his receivers make a play.
Well, he's a better receiver than he is quarterback. Let's get honest. That's the truth. But yeah, people, I mean...
Vince is merciless tonight.
I'm not merciless. I'm just saying Montreal's finest had...
I think you've had too much coffee.
Yes, they had Nate, they had Mike, but these guys then went through Vanier and they then went through Concordia and they then went through training that most people in this league did not go through, and they became the studs they are today. Is Montreal's finest lucky and happy to have these guys on their side of the ball? 100%. Can Wolverine say they did the same thing? No. I mean, let's move on.
But I guess therein brings in the divide of recreational league with elite players. A team that has less football experience that's really made their way up comes into the argument of what have they done to contribute. They've done a lot. They've kept pace with players who play either for a living or for their school that have really played with some of the more elite players in Quebec, and you're still able to keep pace.
So then should we give credit to Montreal's finest for their ability to find players and keep them?
Absolutely.
There you go. So then isn't that the point?
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
But I agree.
There's two sides to the coin.
I agree. It's just the whole Hall of Fame discussion, the whole thing about this league being better in Division 1 and you might have awards and championships in Division 1 back then. Are they still relevant? I mean, come on. Anybody being honest, anybody facing facts, anybody who wants to hear the truth, get serious.
And that's the truth. We have a couple games to preview. Just a quick rundown, maybe one or two sentences. Since you like to cap me, I'll cap you as well. Terra Squad, Flag-Molissac.
Terra Squad, Flag-Molissac. I think this is where... Flag-Molissac, this is a game that they cannot afford to lose, and neither can Terra Squad, to be honest. But Flag-Molissac is a much better team than Terra Squad, and Terra Squad is not going to find their winning ways against Flag-Molissac.
I think so. So long, there's a couple of caveats to this. Super respect for JP St. Pierre. He's a great center. He does a lot of things in D1. But if he's rushing Tam, Terra Squad has much... And he is normally the rusher for Flag-Molissac. Tam has much more time and much more opportunities to win this game than if Felix Prévost rushes. And
that's what I was going to say. So
outside the box.
Just let Felix rush. One game, 5 sacks last week in Division 2.
D-Boys, are we both in agreement here, Flag-Molissac?
Yeah.
I'm Flag-Molissac unless Felix Prévost is not there.
I still give it to Flag-Molissac, even if it's not Felix.
D-Boys Express.
D-Boys, my pick. Express, like you said, I feel like they're just walking through routes. They're just walking through each game. Maybe Pat Chenard puts more emphasis on Chernobyl Circus in Division 2 than he does on Express. I feel like that's what is being translated through their game. So for that reason, I go with D-Boys. And D-Boys, I mean,
I'm going to go
tremendous.
with D-Boys as well. No disrespect to Express, but I feel like Express are a very top-heavy team with Pat Chenard, with Matt Surratt, with SEC, with Laurent Levine-Mas, who's there one week, not there another. Whereas D-Boys, from top to bottom, you'd be hard-pressed to find a weak link on that team. And I think that's what it's going to come down to.
I have to give a shout-out to Jamil Springer, who ever since he wasn't voted to the Hall of Fame has just, it's like...
He's making a case for himself.
It's lit a fire under his ass heavy.
So we're both in agreement, D-Boys, on this one?
Yeah.
I don't like agreeing with you, but
we always
it
agree.
has to happen. Chernobyl Circus, Wolfpack. I'll go first. I think this one is a trap game for Chernobyl Circus. I think they're going to get lulled into a little bit of a false sense of security. Also, we mentioned Felix Prevost rushing. He's going to do really well, I think, against Pat Chenard. I think that's going to be the matchup to look at. I think Wolfpack will take this one in a surprise.
I got nothing to say. We didn't even talk about this before, and I got the same thing as you. So, God.
Okay, so I will let you lead in the next one. Wolverines, usual suspects.
Not a game I'd want to see. I'm just kidding. If Tony Tibet shows up, Wolverines have shown the ability to swing this season. When they're on, they're on. When they're off, they're off. If Tony doesn't show up, they're off. It's an automatic. That being said, usual suspect. It all lies again on Leon Holder. He's had good games. He's had awful games. He's had decent games. He needs to step up his game and maintain a high level of play. And guys like Sean Haney need to step up. You got to have a bigger role in the team than the role you're playing right now. You're a massive individual in the division with not as many big players as
I think Sean Haney. I know Sean Haney has played for usual suspects, but I think he's actually on the commission's roster.
The commission. That's right, with Zan. My bad. So then translate that to their game. So it's on Leon Holder's shoulders, but I go with Wolverines.
I think this is going to come down to whoever throws fewer turnovers, and I like the Wolverines for this game. CLR Forces, Les Messieurs Chat. We haven't talked a lot about CLR Forces, but they're a powerhouse in the division. Les Messieurs Chat, when they're on, they're on. When they're off, they're really off.
Yeah, it's awful. CLR Force, I don't know. I find it hard to give them credit for what they've done. I feel like they've had a soft schedule and they didn't look good against average teams.
Agreed.
And then last week, again, they get FFF with Nathan throwing. They lost to Legends. When they had decent opponents, they lost. And then they've had just a soft schedule. And then last week, I felt was going to be like the turnaround for me in terms of opinion for CLR. But then Benny gets hurt.
So we have no really definitive proof.
That's it for CLR. I got nothing.
So your vote?
Or
are you abstaining?
I'll abstain. I like that.
I think even despite that, CLR Forces are a very, very good defense. And as good as Les Messieurs Chat are, I think Nicola Chintomo is relying a lot on his receivers. You see that he's overthrowing them and really hoping they're going to make the play. He's struggling with a lot of incompletions and relying on the defense. And on that alone, I can't pick them right now. Last game, Gladiator, no regard. We mentioned earlier, Gladiator are very chemistry-based. And hashtag no regard, new QB, they rely more on making plays, on using their abilities.
Yeah, well, Gladiator is a smart team.
They're a smaller roster though as well.
They're not, well, if Nadeau Pius shows up, it boosts their average in size. They're not the smallest team in Division 2. They run a similar style of offense. They like to run a trips play, and within that trips play, they run the same style of routes. So when Gladiator sees Norgard show up in their trips play, they
know what's coming.
Listen to me when I say that they do what you do. So you should know what's coming. For that reason alone, I think Gladiator should take this game. Not for that reason alone, but they have more talent. This is the experience at this point in the game. James Floriani has no chemistry with his receivers. He's fresh off the street. He's played 2 games, but they were both not good games. So I'd say that there's still zero chemistry between him and his receivers.
I think that as well. I think that especially having the defense really struggling for no regard right now, I think Frank LeBeau is going to have a field day and eat them up.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's it for us for this week. Did you learn anything? Or I learned that we can go over the time limit but still be relevant and have people listening. We'll try to keep it in check. Eagle was nice and patient with us.
He was yawning over there.
It's been a long day.
It has been a long day. Anything else before we sign off?
That's it.
So
Thanks
if
for
that's
listening.
it, then that's the truth. You're Vince Nardone. I'm Jim Calethras. And that's the truth.
And that was the truth.